Hello, my name is Philip Totaro. I'm the founder and CEO of market research firm IntelStor. Welcome to your weekly dose of truth to power. Truth to Power examines data driven insights for the energy sector with a focus on renewables. On this week's episode, we're taking a look at a recent revelation regarding the business activities of the US president and his family, who are profiting from wind energy while simultaneously bashing it. So, back in April, there was an announcement by a company called Hut 8 regarding investment to buy a majority stake in a company called American Data Centers. That joint venture company has been renamed and relaunched as American Bitcoin. Now, Hut 8 invests in building data centers specifically for Bitcoin mining. Their latest venture, the Vega Data Center in Texas, is a 162,000 square foot facility that was actually just completed on June 30th of this year. American Data Centers is a company that was formed back in February 2025 and is co-owned by Dominari Holdings with a 32% stake, a fund that operates out of Trump Corporation's headquarters in New York City and represents a pool of minority investors. And the remaining ownership is split between the sons of the US president, Eric and Donald Jr., as well as Gryphon Digital Mining, which is controlled by Steve Gutterman. As part of the venture, Hut 8 contributed its mining facilities in exchange for an 80% stake in the new company, American Bitcoin. American Data Centers took the remaining 20% stake in American Bitcoin. The JV company, American Bitcoin, doesn't own any Bitcoin mining machines itself. It will use equipment belonging to a different subsidiary of Hut 8 that includes the computers at Hut 8's Vega Data Center in Texas. Now, this is particularly interesting, and the reason I'm talking about it is because the Vega Data Center was built adjacent to the Canadian Breaks wind farm. That's a 200 megawatt facility in North Texas, about 40 miles west of Amarillo, which is owned by Northleaf Capital Partners. Northleaf agreed to sell the wind farm's energy to that subsidiary of Hut 8, which will power the Vega Data Center and mine the bitcoins on American Bitcoin's blockchain. But here's why I really decided to talk about this topic this week. The Canadian Breaks wind farm was commissioned back in 2019. The original project developers and owners of the project, Fremantle Asset Management and the Green Investment Group, applied for production tax credits. Since being commissioned in 2019, the wind farm has racked up more than $39.1 million in production tax credits. While the project is only 6 years old, it operates with a lifetime average capacity factor of just over 48%. Based on prevailing power pricing in Texas prior to the offtake deal with Hut 8, the wind farm generated $299.8 million in revenue, with PTC revenue equating to approximately 13%. The project is set to see a net positive return on capital within the next 3 years in operation, according to IntelStor's data. Now, the current administration has referred to wind energy as a con job and unviable. In the meantime, Hut 8 is quoted as having said that the Vega Data Center would not be possible without the inexpensive wind energy that supplies it. In fact, American Bitcoin's own investment prospectus, when they did the deal with Gryphon, suggests that rising average temperatures could pose, quote, physical risks that the company may not be prepared to counter. While I'm not here to debate climate change science, the reality of this does seem a bit hypocritical. Now, by definition, even I would have to agree that the president himself has done nothing yet to violate the domestic emoluments clause of the Constitution with this. That's Article 2, Section 1, Clause 7, if you want to look it up. It effectively states that while in office, the President of the United States is under a blanket prohibition against receiving any sort of financial or commercial advantage from any state government or the federal government directly. Most presidents put any investments that they have at the time of their election into a blind trust to be controlled by someone else while they're serving office in order to avoid a conflict of interest. Or else they exploit a loophole, as was done in this case, by divesting their interest in any businesses that they own or control to family members, since that's technically outside the way that clause is written in the Constitution. Now, I acknowledge that the president himself isn't directly involved in the Bitcoin venture, at least not based on the information that's been publicly disclosed. There's absolutely some regulatory authority that the U.S. Department of the Treasury has over digital currencies. On March 6th of this year, the president signed an executive order to direct the Department of the Treasury to establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve and create a U.S. digital asset stockpile. Now, moral gray areas aside, I really just have one question about all of this. Is it acceptable to publicly bash wind energy as much as he has and as aggressively as he has, and yet still have his family profit from it? The Canadian Breaks wind farm wouldn't exist without millions of dollars in production tax credits that they've received since the project started. The Bitcoin mining operation wouldn't exist without the inexpensive wind energy that's being supplied to it. I'll leave it to you to decide. But in the meantime, remember this. Renewable energy is already a $1 trillion industry in the United States, which employs more than 1 million Americans and legal green card holders. My recommendation? How about the U.S. administration gets out of our way so that more than 1 million Americans can actually prosper in the same way that the president's family is? Now, as for the oil and gas industry that's more than paid for this lobbying effort to, support bashing wind, they're an industry that's between 4 and 5 times the size of quote unquote big wind. They spent more than $79.1 million in campaign contributions and lobbying in the first 2 quarters of 2025. That's compared to $39.1 million for renewable energy technologies, despite industry trade groups like ACP and SEIA reaching record spending levels trying to defend production tax credits, investment tax credits, and manufacturing tax credits. In the meantime, I think it might be high time for Congress to take a look at closing some of these loopholes in the domestic emoluments clause of the Constitution. It's tough because while those in Congress also have family members who frequently benefit from the regulatory actions taken on behalf of the American people, the United States is supposed to be about liberty, justice, and prosperity for all, and not just an elite few. Thank you for joining me this week. I'm Philip Totaro, and this has been your weekly dose of truth to power. Follow us on IntelStor's YouTube channel, as well as your favorite audio platforms. And visit www.intelstor.com to join more than 200,000 subscribers to our renewable energy data solutions. A full analysis of the renewable energy market in the USA is available to subscribers. And time is running out for you to register for the next Wind Summit event in Houston, Texas this October. Visit www.windsummit.org and join hundreds of your industry colleagues from companies like NextEra, EDPR, EDF, Pattern Energy, Clearway, Apex Clean Energy, Renewable, and more. We hope to see you there.